First on film and entertainment, a very good day to you all. And we are going to be talking about some pretty special movies. We're talking about Jacqui Hammerton, Greg King, Peter Krauss, and yours truly, Alex First. G'day, folks. Now, I've always sort of thought, all right, what does a really good thriller look like? And I suppose one example of that is A Quiet Place. That really hit us between the eyes, back in 2018. And we then had a sequel, 2020, and now they've come back with the prequel. So the third installment being the prequel with no longer Emily Blunt, but a very fine actor as the pivotal character in this one. So I thought we'd start there, and we will talk about A Quiet Place Day One. Hardly an inventive title, but there you go. You've got it. So look, it could. I reckon this could have been renamed How to Avoid a Catastrophe, because they give a hell of a lot of screen time, do they not, Jacqui Hammerton, to a Moggy?
They do, to Frodo the cat,
Frodo.
played by two cats called Schnitzel and Nico.
Ah,
there you go. There's a little detail for you.
You've gone into feline detail. I'm most impressed by this. Now, I know that you are a dog lover. Are you a cat lover or not?
Oh, yes, I've always had cats all my life up until I started having dogs. There you go. I'm a turncoat. And the cat is used to good effect in a thriller because you're always on the edge of your seat that the cat's going to give you away, aren't you? Because they're unpredictable creatures, cats.
Well, I'm surprised he didn't meow more often.
Did not meow once.
Amazing. Very expressive cat, don't you think, Peter?
It certainly was. It's the star of the film, in fact.
Well, maybe an Academy Award.
Oh, very nice. Look, would you say picture perfect?
Could be.
Sorry, Greg. These are the old man jokes that you come up with. Come on, join the fray.
Dad jokes.
You're covering it perfectly well between you. I don't need to put my four cents worth in.
Well,
you covered perfectly well.
Thank you. This is an origin story, and more specifically, the focus is on a woman named Samira, known as Sam, and she's played by a brilliant actor called Lupita Nyong'o. She won an Oscar, did she not?
Yes.
For 12 Years a Slave.
Correct. Now, she's struggling, she's in pain, she's on meds, and she lives in a hospice outside the city, and we're talking about New York City in particular. And, basically, unfortunately, she's a cancer patient who's all but given up on life. So on the proviso that he get her a pizza, Sam reluctantly agrees to let a care worker by the name of Ruben, played by Alex Wolff, take her and other patients to a show in town, right, in the city. Now, I've got to tell you a personal story at this point. This is giving of myself. I changed my name by deed poll because nobody could spell my name, and I used to like to order pizzas, and I changed my name by deed poll accordingly. True story. There you go. Did any of you know that?
Yes.
No. Very good. 1 out of 3. Okay, so there you go. The second...
I could even spell your original name, I believe.
No, we won't do that.
I won't do it.
I also got rid of my middle name because I didn't like it. Paid $10. There you go. There were two phases in my life. So I did that, and it was a really easy thing to do. Having said that, it wasn't just because of pizza. It was also because when I got into the media, it was far better to have it as a name that you could spell. Do you know how many people still cannot spell? When I give them my surname, they still can't spell it. They struggle to accept that it's an actual surname.
Maybe it's the way you say it.
Perhaps it is. Well, when you speak to people on the telephone, and even when you spell things out, I reckon that they confuse the letter B for Bob with a V for victory. Have any of you noticed that?
You're generalising.
I am.
Hugely here.
Well, that's what I do. It's like when I say the mighty fighting Essendon football machine, the greatest side on the planet, right? Am I generalising? Absolutely. Yes. All right, let's get back on A Quiet Place Day One. And there's nothing quiet about what's happened to the mighty Bombers at the G on Friday night. There we go. All right. talking about noise, boy, there was a lot of noise. Anyway, we are now at this show in town with Sam, and that's when the aliens, and look, they do remind, the critters that are in this remind me of the Alien movies. They start arriving, and they appear as comets from the sky. And even the slightest noise can trigger them in numbers. And, of course, they leave a path of destruction in their wake. So these are creatures that are blind, noise sensitive, and don't like water. That's my summary. Is that correct, Greg?
Possibly, yes. Sounds like any hippie.
Thank you. So buildings are torn apart, cars are destroyed, they're overturned, there's debris everywhere. Now, Sam and Reuben being the care worker, remain holed up and silent in the theatre where they've gone to see a puppet show. Anyway, but that doesn't last too long. Soon enough, Sam's on the move with Frodo, being the cat. And now I found this a bit strange. There's an all-points bulletin to evacuate the city. And the evacuation is from helicopters. Well, hang on. Don't the creatures fly up and destroy the helicopters? Or do they fly above the parapet? I wasn't quite clear about that. Jackie, can you clear that up for me, please? Because I
don't think they can elevate themselves that high to a helicopter. Can they? Well, obviously they can't because they didn't. Well, it doesn't matter because they're made up creatures anyway, and they just do whatever the director says.
But
I don't think they knew that their powers when they first arrived, that they were attracted to sound. That would have taken a while to figure out.
But by then they'd destroyed all sorts of parts of the city. So I think Jackie's explanation is that they can't leap that high. Peter, have you got an answer?
No, but it is an example of one of many plot gaps in the film.
Chasms.
Yeah, you've given us. You've given something away before we're even there. But there you go. Okay, so with all this destruction and all of that stuff, you've basically got the city being cleared and people are being asked to head south via boats on the waterfront. Why boats? As I've said, the creatures can't swim. But Sam still wants her pizza like I did when I changed my name, in Harlem. Now, why in Harlem? Because it's a nod to her late father who played at a pub in Harlem. So she goes it alone with Frodo, although the puss wanders off, only to return with this deeply fearful young British law student called Eric, played by Joseph Quinn, in tow. And she tells Eric not to follow her. He doesn't listen. And the rest of the plot is devoted to the pair of them as they sort of navigate their sort of journey, whatever it might happen to be. So, yeah, it's kind of, they go through the Manhattan streets because that's where they are, the buildings, the subway system. And, of course, there are many close encounters with the creatures who strike with a great deal of speed and force. And the story is by John Krasinski, who, of course, is Emily Blunt's husband, who was also responsible for the first two installments and was heavily features in particular in the first one. And the story also by Michael Sarnowski, who you guys must have seen Pig, that was back in 2021. And he also writes and directs Day One, Michael Sarnowski. So, look, you can see this film. I think this is important. When you make a sequel, even though this is a prequel sequel, you make it so that you could see it without having seen the other ones, and it still makes sense. I reckon you can see this without seeing the others, and it's fine. What do you think, Jacqui?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You could see this without the others, but why would you when the others are so much more superior?
Well, again, you've given something away, but that's good. Second,
isn't that what I'm here for?
You are, exactly. I still think it's suitably intimidating and scary. There are several.
Really?
Yes.
You're scared?
Yes. You weren't?
You're a delicate creature, aren't you, Alex?
I am very, very sensitive. Be conscious of that when you're speaking with me. Be respectful. Thank you. Did you not find it frightening, Peter?
Not at all. In fact, I found it quite sanitized.
On your bike. Greg.
And stupid.
And stupid. Greg, any scares?
I had a few moments there of tension, but it wasn't as scary as the first two films.
But at least the voice of reason there. These are large, lightning-fast, ugly, slimy creatures. They're like Carlton supporters, right?
But they're not real, Alex. And Carlton supporters are real.
Oh no!
Are they?
Uh,
So
They're coming out of the woodwork at the moment.
they believe their own narrative. I was sent. This is another aside. I was sent a very ugly piece of video footage yesterday, obviously by a Carlton supporter, where they predict that they are going to beat Collingwood by 125 points in this year's grand final, right? And they've actually got very, very good football callers calling the end of the game. It's sickening. It really is sickening. Let's get back to A Quiet Place Day One. Okay, you've made your views perfectly clear. What about Lupita Nyong'o? Did you not think she was excellent in the lead, Jacqui?
Well, she's the only good thing about the film, really.
Okay, right.
She has a face that shows fear like almost no other actor I could think of. When her eyes go wide, and she has to be completely silent, of course, and she shows terror through every pore of her skin in her face. She is brilliant like that. So all of my score is for her.
Okay, so you're a champion for Lupita Nyong'o. I mean, really strong-willed, really disciplined, and yeah, those eyes speak volumes. The camera loves those eyes. Don't you agree, Greg? I mean, the eyes were terrific.
Oh, they were, yeah. As Jacqui said, she displayed fear quite effectively there in some of those scenes. But I thought Joseph Quinn did a good job too as a lawyer.
Yeah, well, but I mean, hang on, Peter. That fear is the fear I have when my eyes meet yours and I start talking to you about football, and you've got no knowledge of it whatsoever. Is that not correct, Peter?
It is correct, because I always nod off as soon as you talk anything related to football.
It's very sad, really. Okay, so what about Eric, the Joseph Quinn character? I mean, he really wants to ingratiate himself into Sam's life, give her something she desperately needs, and that being renewed joy. What did you think of the character of Eric, Jacqui? No merit?
Oh, I just didn't even get him. He changed kind of personality through the film. I guess you could call that a shift in the film, but it didn't work for me at all. I just didn't have any interest in him at all.
Ah, Greg, any interest in Eric?
I just mentioned I thought he did a reasonably good job.
Yes. Yeah. Peter, you hated everything about the movie, so you didn't like Eric?
I didn't say I hated everything. I mean, Lupita is superb, but I must say the cat is just absolutely superb.
He's a scene stealer.
The cat is a scene stealer. I wonder what the cat got paid compared to the other actors.
Probably kibbles. What?
Whiskers?
I had a big problem with the cat, with Frodo, because to me it was the most deliberate attempt to introduce tension through the film. And we're talking about people who, I mean, this is their lives. They've seen, what was it, hundreds or thousands in the body count being dragged away and ripped away by these aliens. And yet they're prepared to risk that themselves for a cat that might meow or jump up on a beam or go trotting down the road, stand on some broken glass, whatever, make a noise. And to me, that it just didn't work. That it was too deliberate a point to introduce tension.
But it introduces the sensibilities that we have, many of us have. And I mean, my wife, you're a good example where, my wife thinks much more of animals than she thinks of people. And you probably do too, Jacqui. So, I mean, we all care for our pets and their doesn't that make sense then?
Well, I thought more of the cat than of the director, put it like that.
Wow. Okay. Well, then Alex Wolff, I mean, the carer, I thought he had a significant role at the very beginning, and we're not going to have spoilers here, but, he encourages Sam to press on regardless of her condition.
Oh, well, he was a bit ho-hum. I mean, the issue with the whole film isn't, it's that the story doesn't progress. There's no mystery at all here. It's thrown out there in the first 5 minutes of what's happening. We all know what the aliens can and can't do and what the risk is with them. And the story, there's no mystery, and the story just doesn't develop. It's like just to keep trying to not get killed by the aliens. and do stupid things and
I mean,
try and get a pizza. I mean, you know, and even the characters don't develop in the plot because they can't talk to each other. There's no dialogue. So we don't find out stuff about them, and we don't see that emotional connection build, and we don't see how they interact, because by necessity of the aliens, it has to be silent. Or maybe Emily Blunt and John Krasinski did it better in A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2.
Well, okay, let's talk about a couple of other elements. Firstly, they do link to the previous one, part 2, with Jimon Hunso, who's well, if you remember part 2, he was a leader of an island colony of survivors. He gets a very small role here. They hadn't named him actually in part 2. They give him the name Henri here. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is visually. I thought from the opening aerial shot, it's quite striking. I thought Pat Scola, the cinematographer, who, by the way, worked with the director on Pig, I thought he captured the destruction, the desolation, the desperation of that city quite finely with some distinction. Did you not think the cinematography was okay, Peter?
Look, it was well shot, but then so many films are very well shot. And I have to say, a lot of this film, as I mentioned earlier, is sanitized. The violence, the death angels, as these creatures are called, a lot of it happens off screen, and there's a lot that is not explained in this film.
Well, the other thing is that the contrast between sound and silence is critical, and the impact of the picture. That's where I thought the music by Alexis Grapsis, who also worked on Pig, also had a vital role to play in terms of the picture. Did that not strike you as being important, Greg?
Well, look, some of it a lot of it took place in dark or confined places, which added to a claustrophobic atmosphere. But as I said, this one didn't grab me as much as the first two films. Apart from the cat, I didn't really fear for any of the characters.
That's interesting because, I mean, they were snatched very quickly and disposed of quickly. Unlike you, I was engaged from the outset. I thought the first, if you like, 3/4 was better than the end where, you know, really it was just they went to the line to give a bit of hope and so on and so forth. But I did find it quite engaging. So, all right, well, Peter, do you have, apart from saying some nice things about the cat and Lupita Nyong'o, was there anything else redeemable or not?
Actually, no. And I would have loved more explanation about the water issue that these creatures seem to hate, and also about the whole origin story.
Sorry. Let's take one at a time. When you say you wanted more about the water, if they can't swim, they drown, what more do you need?
But again, there's no backstory, no particular understanding about why these creatures are the way they are, why they invaded Earth, what their point is. It just seems just like a standard B-grade horror movie.
Mm-hmm. Do you think we needed an explanation, Jacqui?
I certainly wanted more to the story, and I would say C-grade horror movie rather than B-grade. And Alex, when you talk about the cinematography and that, yeah. I mean, I would like Greg to try and count how many films in the past 10 years have involved great cinematography of a city being destroyed. I mean, that was almost the reason for this film, was so you could, you know, destroy the crap out of New York City, and it always looks very CGI effective.
Well, some of those shots of the dust and that going through New York at that time when the creatures first landed, I was flashing back to September the 11th.
I reckon they got the idea from that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was 3 minutes of the film, you know, so it's one good thing.
Hang on. There's also, we're going to see something this coming week called Twisters, which again, you've seen I presume you've seen the trailer, and, you know, again, it's very much about things being picked up and destroyed. I mean, that's fair enough, isn't it? And I did you think it was all CGI? Did you think it looked CGI? Did you, Jacqui? All of that?
Well, I don't know that I thought it looked that way. Just knowing in my mind that it was made it, you know,
But then hang
took
on.
me one step away from. I mean, well, let's face it, New York City was not destroyed for this film.
Yeah, but if we see a movie about the end of the world or potential end of the world or whatever, what would you like to see filmmakers do that wasn't done in this movie?
Oh, well, nothing. It's just that it's been done so many times before. I mean, what was it earlier this year where Rio was completely destroyed? Was that the
Godzilla, that was on the Godzilla
King
movie.
Kong and
Godzilla, that was Godzilla and
Godzilla? Yeah. I mean, that was similarly wonderfully effective, but obviously not real because I went to Rio 2 weeks after that and it was perfectly calm and beautiful. So we know already in our mind it's not real.
I'm pleased that you had, at least in your head, that Rio may have been destroyed, and oh, gee. Very good. So, all right. Is there anything more to say about this film, Greg, that you can give a little bit of warmth to it, or not really?
Not really, no. I think we've said it all.
Okay, well, let's get some scores, starting with me highballing it. I'm giving A Quiet Place Day One, which runs for, I thought the running time was fine, 100 minutes, M-rated. I'm giving it a 7.5. Okay, Greg, I liked it.
Good on you.
I'll
do it. I'll give it 6.
Right, okay, so, Jacqui?
Shouldn't a film like this have an element of surprise to it? Well, even if it's an origin story.
Well, I'm sorry, when you say element of surprise...
An origin story, when you've already had 2 actually quite excellent films that are thrillers, horrors, but not horror, more like a thriller horror, if I can differentiate there. If you've already had 2 that were really quite classy films, beautifully acted, and they did very well, and then you go back to an origin story, you want to find out, and Peter mentioned this, you want to find out what the origin of this is, not just, oh, they arrived, but why and how and the ins and outs of it. So there was no element of surprise for me and no element of mystery and mystery getting solved. I gave A Quiet Place Day One 3 out of 10.
Oh, my God, Lee. Gee, I'm sorry.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, when you have a different actor who you already said is excellent, and you're only giving her a 3 out of 10 effectively.
Yeah, I gave her 3 out of 10, so I gave the film really a 0. Because, look, honestly, tell you the truth, I wasn't scared and I wasn't bored. I wasn't scared and I was bored. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's right. But to me, I had no idea what the backstory was going to be, but I thought she was terrific. I thought the way they set it up was fine, and I thought it looked good. So, okay, now, Peter, can you topple 3 out of 10?
I'll try to. I've got the cat next to me and she's whispering a score to me. But for me, it's always about the story. And I can only give it 4 out of 10.
Oh, so you're giving it up. So Jacqui's lowballed it. Wow. Okay, so now hang on. Let's do some arithmetic here, please. Greg, get your human calculator out. 7 plus 6, 13.
No, but Greg hasn't given his score.
Yes, he has. 6.
Oh, he did too. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that.
Right,
Sorry.
yeah, a lot of people do that when I start talking.
So, all right, so we're 13 and a
Do
half.
maths.
13 and a half plus 7. There you go. Is 20 and a half divided by... It passes. There you go. Folks, please go and see A Quiet Place Day One. There you go. JAIR, 88 FM. More of this nonsense. And I tell you what, if you want to become a member of the station, please do. Community radio needs your support. $54. That's what it costs you a year. And yeah, the more the merrier, please. 24 hours a day, some intelligent and some less intelligent. No, we shouldn't demean our own show programming, and lots of good music as well on JAIR 88 FM. Outlaw motorcycle gangs. Well, they've been the bane of many cities, and I suppose when you think about bike riders and outlaws, etc., I suppose you do think about the United States. Well, this one, The Bike Riders, which is rated M and runs for nearly 2 hours, 116 minutes to be exact, was inspired by reflections of a particular photojournalist who spent 4 years as a member of a particular motorcycle club called the Chicago Outlaws. And this one, The Bike Riders, really, it's about testosterone and based around a fictional biker gang known as the Vandals, also based in Chicago, and its founder, Johnny Davis, played by Tom Hardy. Now, Tom Hardy plays himself very well, doesn't he, Peter?
He's very good. I mean, he was in Mad Max, of course, and he's a very good actor.
Yeah, I mean, he plays similar roles, and this is what I'm saying, he plays himself, but he's always very solid. Whenever I see Tom Hardy, I think, yeah, I'm in for a good time, because he knows how to channel that sort of deep, incentivized self. Is that how you see him, Jacqui, or not? Tom Hardy?
Oh, yes. He is a very fine actor, but he does play a particular... He's becoming a bit known for a particular role, yeah. I think. Yeah, a particular character, if you like.
Yeah, characterization as such. Yeah. What's your view of Tom Hardy as a performer, as an actor? Can he do... Is he diverse enough in terms of...
He has a strong screen presence. Mumble's a bit too much for me. It's sometimes hard to understand what he's saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, look, in this
one...
Agree. Okay, he's married with a couple of children in this one. We don't see him do this. He's a truck driver, although all we see of him is as this brooding and ruthless leader of the Vandals. And his most trusted associate is a thrill seeker called Benny Cross, played by Austin Butler. Horrible to look at, Jacqui, would you agree?
Oh, well...
Would you put up with him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Getting out of bed, put it that way.
It's less than enthusiastic, Jacqueline.
Look, he very much channels James Dean in the way that he presents himself. And you could say because he was so successful and so beloved in the recent film Elvis, that you could see Elvis in him too. But definitely when you're talking about the movie idea, it's James Dean you're thinking of all the time, and he plays to that very strongly and quite successfully.
Yeah, I mean, he really doesn't say much, but he never shies away from a fight. And this is a story, the bike riders, that unfolds between 1965 and 1973 through interviews conducted by the photojournalist I mentioned at the outset. You know, these are interviews with club members and their partners. And in particular, the focus is on Benny's wife, Kathy, played by Jodie Comer, who I thought did a really good job, meets Benny by chance at a bar frequented by this gang. And at the time, she's got a boyfriend. A moment later, the boyfriend's gone, only to be replaced by Benny, who literally parks himself on her doorstep, or opposite her doorstep. There's a street in between. But the intimidation that she felt by the bikers when she first entered the bar to meet her girlfriend is gone. And 5 weeks later, she marries Benny. So we see how the club was formed, how important a role it plays in the lives of its members. And look, to many of them, it's the be-all and end-all. And those include Johnny and Benny. But we also get potted portraits of the others too. We might not get full backstories, but we get a feel for, I don't know, half a dozen, whatever it is, 10 of them that are gang members. And soon chapters of the Vandals are springing up all over the Midwest, but not before Johnny's challenge to a fist fight for control of the Chicago operation. Because one of the rules they institute, if anybody wants to challenge, they can. But it's kind of a stacked deck, is the best way I can put it. So Benny's loyalty to Johnny is tested after Benny is stood over in a bar for wearing club colours. So a couple of heavies come in and say, you can't do that here. And unfortunately, from Benny's point of view, he's badly injured. Not that it seems to trouble him too much, but thereafter, Benny's relationship with his wife gets quite a workout. So violence and fear, there we go again, significant parts of the gang's culture, and that's manifest throughout the bike riders. I say there we go again because obviously of the Quiet Place A Quiet Place, Day One that we just spoke about. But look, they've got their own rules of engagement, and although intimidatory, those rules of engagement are nothing on the new generation that's coming really to supplant them. So it's quite sinister in terms of what the lengths that the newbies are going to go to. Whereas you get the feeling that the writer and the director, Jeff Nichols, who did movies like Take Shelter and Loving, he maintains a kind of a respect for the original gang. the gang that started up the Vandals, if you like, or the person and the persons that were involved in the original gang. And the starting point for this particular work, The Bike Riders, was a seminal book written by Danny Lyons in 1968. And I mentioned I thought Jodie Comer did a great job. Really strong Midwestern accent. She's really arguably the heartbeat of the movie, isn't she, Jacqui?
Oh, definitely. I think she is. Well, she is, because she's set up to be almost the narrator, if you like, because she's telling the story from her point of view. But she's got great message. Love the accent. She worked very hard on. Love that accent. And remembering her from the role I've seen her in that I was most impressed by was Prima Facie, which was the one-woman show. Mm-hmm. So I'm a big rap for Jodie Comer, yeah.
I didn't see her in Prima Facie. I saw it as a theatrical performance. Did you see? Was that National Theatre Live, or what do you?
Yes, it was National Theatre Live, and she took the role. The legal story.
Legal story. Yeah, I mean, I thought she really told her story, warts and all, but she told it in such a way, as Kathy, she was proud, she was unashamed. There was no pretense, and there's a fearless quality about her character, Peter, which really appealed to me. What about you?
Oh, she is superb in the film, and I agree about Prima Facie. This is a film that really surprised me. I must admit, I wasn't looking forward to seeing a film again about bikers and about the gangs and about violence and so on. But Jeff Nichols, who also directed Mud, has fashioned a really interesting fictional story based on that book of 100 photographs of bikies in 1968. And what he's done is very clever. He's made it into a strong cultural and personal story about how the various members of the Vandals interrelate and how they progress through various incidents and events. I also have to say it's great to see two Australian actors in the film, Damon Herriman and Toby Wallace in particular, who plays the young Turk who provides a pivotal performance in the film. There is a lot to admire. And in fact, it supplants Easy Rider and Wild Angels and other of those bikey films by turning them into cultural observations about real people and the way they interact and what happens to them. So I was quite impressed by the film. The acting was superb, and it was really well filmed.
Well, Tom Hardy, really measured, hardened, quite astute as Johnny. He's got this world-weary look about him, Greg, doesn't he? I mean, that's how I would say he's portrayed, and I reckon as Austin Butler is this sort of picture of fire and restraint. He's quite enigmatic, and I mean, what really distinguishes him, these explosions of pique, right, contrast quite sharply with that of a fellow who wants to be left to his own devices. So he wants to be left alone, but he's ready to sort of put up the dukes and defend others' honour. What did you think of those two characterizations?
Yeah, I thought Butler brought a brooding, taciturn quality to his performance here. He's an enigmatic character a little bit, also hot-headed, self-destructive and unpredictable. A bit of a wild card there, but he mainly plays second fiddle to Hardy, I think, here. And Hardy mumbles his way through the role as if he's channeling Brando's iconic performance from The Wild One. There's a bit of a love letter to the freedom of the bikies, the freedom, the camaraderie, but also mentioned the toxic masculinity of this world as well. But unlike you guys, I had a bit of a problem with the Jodie Comer, Kathy's narration there. It was fine as a way to introduce the whole world there, you know, being interviewed by this Danny Lyon character, setting the scene there. But I thought that constantly going back to her all the way through the film interrupted and slowed down the momentum of the film. Annoyed the bejesus out of me by the end of the film.
Really? It's funny. I looked forward to hearing her observations because they were so sort of matter of fact, Greg, and that's what I think made them so compelling. It wasn't as if she was pushing a view. It was sort of drawn out of her by the interview. I thought that was...
No, I just thought it slowed down the pacing and of the film.
Okay, well, what about, like, Michael Shannon is always good. He doesn't have a big role, but I thought he was one of the other standouts as Zipco, a gang member. He doesn't run with the college boys, does he? Did you like him?
He was okay. He's a regular in
Yes.
And also Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead there was also a bit of an interesting character. Some of the but we didn't get enough of backstory of some of these characters to understand them a little bit. They're also lacking some of that.
But I mean, ultimately, there was this camaraderie about them that they liked being part of something. Jacqui, was that not enough?
I wanted to know why they needed individually, the backstories, why they needed to be a part of this bikie gang. For all the talk that went on, I really didn't leave the film feeling I got to know the guys there, the lead. There might have been half a dozen. I would have liked to have known more about what brought them there and their backstory. Instead, probably overdid the Kathy talking and ran out of time for that. I did want them all very much to have a shower. I think that was my biggest problem with the film. Wasn't I liked the look of it and the setup and the setting and the place and the cinematography and that. And thank you, Peter, for describing it as cultural and personal story there. But I just couldn't get into the story of, as you said, the toxic masculinity, the alcohol, the drugs, the abuse of women. They didn't seem to have, well, a couple of them had jobs, but it didn't seem, there was no priority in their lives of that. The priority, they were so self-absorbed and actually quick to anger and jealousy, and they were quite unattractive. And as I said, they needed a shower. And I just didn't like the place I was in when I was with them.
That's it. Well, I thought there was a bit of a lyrical quality to the storytelling, Jacqui, which details the start and end of an era. Is that wasn't enough for you? I mean, the pacing.
Yes, not enough. No.
Oh, and the pacing. What would you say about the pacing? Because it wasn't a rat-a-tat-tat-tat. There was a bit of breathing space, and I liked that. I thought that was one of the features of the production, Peter.
Oh, absolutely. The pacing was just right. I really got into the story, which, as I said, surprised me because I didn't think I was going to be interested in this group of bikers.
Well, the other thing about it was the cinematography, and I know I focused on that as well with Day One, but Adam Stone here, really, I thought he did a fine job. It wasn't overstated at all. But he captured the spirit of the nation at the time. I mean, we're talking a long time ago now, right? We're talking about, what a different place the world was, 1965, 1973. I thought he captured that very well, Jacqui. Did that not?
Oh, yes. Yes. As I said, I liked the look of it and the place and the setting and the setup of it. It all came together, but I just didn't really want to be there unless they'd have a shower, etc.
So you can't see yourself with a bikie for the rest of your life. Is that what you're telling me, Jack?
Anytime soon, no.
It's only tradies. There's a difference. And do tradies shower? I'm just picking up
question.
I'm just picking up a thread. So please, I'm not having a go at tradies. They're very bad.
You know what I mean when I make that comment, though, Alex, don't you?
Yes.
I mean, it was pretty. I mean, you could call it gritty and ugly, but it was also pretty, pretty disgusting and sordid too, as a lifestyle, as a lifestyle choice.
Yeah, the lifestyle choice. I agree. It is a lifestyle choice, but I mean, I suppose it played with.
And also, you might say it's very masculine. It was very full of testosterone, and which the other point was that to me, Kathy didn't look like that at all, and she actually looked out of place the whole time.
But that was the point. That was where, like, she was the most unlikely person. She was kind of more prim and proper in certain regards, but she got to appreciate elements of that lifestyle. That's why I thought hers was such a measured role, but one that transitioned. And I thought that was really valuable. But anyway, let's start with you, Peter. You liked it very much. The Bike Riders, rated M, and it runs for 116 minutes. Score out of 10, please.
I really liked this film. I gave it 8 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I really enjoyed it too. 7.5. Greg King?
6.5.
Jacqui Hammerton.
Oh, and I gave The Bike Riders a 6 out of 10.
So, okay. So, yeah. So you'd call it, where does 6 sit on the platform? Is that an average movie, Jacqui, or below average?
I'm not sure. No, well, I'm not sure. It's a movie for a particular audience, I think. Not everyone would love it. I mean, it was a finely made, it was a well-made film, but I just didn't love it.
Fair enough. As a filmmaker, Peter, I think he's quite an intriguing filmmaker. That the choices of movies that he makes, that he has, and so forth. What are your thoughts about that? Because I mean, obviously, as a director, as somebody who makes choices, they're all kind of gritty in a way, aren't they?
They are. I mean, Nichols is such a good independent director, and his film Mud, for me, stands out as being such a good examination.
Film. Yeah, terrific film.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There are you look forward. I don't know about you, but I certainly look forward to the next film of a certain director. For example, some people Yorgos Lanthimos is a good example, right? You know you're going to get the obtuse every time you go and see a Yorgos Lanthimos movie. I think that's a good thing, right? I mean, and he's one of those that I follow with a great deal of interest and want to know what he's doing next. Anyway, we've given our scores. One of the other movies that has come out is one that it took a long time for me to start to appreciate, and I'm thinking this has got one of the longest starts in history, and I'm talking about A Silence. It was interminable before we got to the plot, before we got to the point, and I don't know why they did that, to sort of draw it out. It drove me nuts. Before giving any detail about it, did any of you find similarly? Like, it took half hour or 40 minutes in a movie that only went for 101 minutes to get to the point.
It was only about 5 minutes, Alex. Come on.
No, I genuinely don't believe that. Was I the only one that thought it took forever to get going? Yes.
Well, I thought because it focused first of all on Emmanuel Devos's character and how she felt guilt and concern, and we start to pull back from that and we learn more about the background. I thought it was actually really well made.
Well, okay, well, no, I funnily enough, I also thought a lot of it after the first half hour. But anyway, it's MA rated, it's 101 minutes, and it's really about a dark and dirty family secret that explodes, right? So you've got Astrid, played by Devos, Emmanuel Devos, has said nothing about the deeply troubling matter that I spoke about for 3 decades. But a figure from the past triggers a lot of concern, massive concern. So Astrid has this renowned media-savvy lawyer for a husband. His name's Francois, played by Daniel Auteuil. And Jacqui, he's in every second French movie, isn't he?
I think.
Yes?
It used to be, but not so much now.
No. Well, the conversation I had off the record with you, no, not off the record, off this platform, Jacqui, was that Daniel Auteuil is in every second French movie, along with which actor? Which female actor? Do you remember?
Isabelle Huppert?
Yeah, is that right, Jacqui?
Yes, that's right.
There you go. All right. No. She's angry with me now. Don't be angry with me. We're just having fun. Okay. So you haven't seen this one yet, Jacqui, but I would suggest it's a movie that you may think a lot of. Anyway,
Alex, you did mention to me to see it, and I looked at the trailer and I read a review of it, and I chose not to based on the content.
Makes a lot of sense. All right. Well, all right. So Astrid's got this husband who's a lawyer, he has been fighting an incendiary high-profile case for 5 years, and he represents the parents of a couple of abducted children, 2 of them, with reporters camped outside his place, really nice home, eager to capture his every word. The 2 of them, they're kind of cocooned in this life of privilege, and yet there's a lot of tension between the couple that dates back decades, and they've got a couple of children. They've got a grown-up daughter called Carolyn, played by Louise Chevalot, who really implores her mum to say something about what's this dirty, dark secret, and she wants her mother to come clean. They've also got an adopted teenage son called Raphael, played by Peter Krauss, and he's been wagging school. He faces expulsion. So there are fires to be fought on several fronts, the personal fronts, of course, as well as the professional. And ultimately, though, there's no escaping the bitter truth. So it's a really disturbing drama from Joachim Lafosse, and it's a disquieting exploration of family, of duty, of complicity, and of coercive control. And they're the elements that I suppose are attractive in terms of making a movie. And what makes it even more shocking, though, is that it was inspired by actual events that occurred in France and Belgium and outraged both countries. I was suitably appalled by what I saw unfolding. But my biggest criticism of this movie comes down to that tortuously slow, I'd say wallowing and obscure start. Now, I do understand that what they were trying to do as filmmakers was to stretch out the big reveal, but I dare say by the time it comes, some of the audience may not have stuck around. And that's a pity, because the story's got real bite from that point on. I mean, mystery is one thing, but obfuscation is another. And that's what I felt was happening at first. So, and I've got to say, Greg, my sentiments weren't helped by the darkness inherent in many of the scenes.
But it's a very dark film in many ways. Some of the scenes deal with, and I think that added to the mood of it.
I wanted to see the film, Greg. I mean, it was a theatrical device, maybe, but it became frustrating to me. It's like something, if they turn the sound down, they turn the light down, it's too dark. But I still want to recommend The Silence, because as disgusting and scandalous a story as it is, it really deserves to be told. And what gives the movie strength is that internalized acting performance of Emmanuel Devos, really strong as a woman who has endured so much. And again, Daniel Auteuil, really well cast, suave, astute, legal eagle, carrying a massive burden. You believe he is who he is. And I thought Mathieu Galou was quite believable as that aloof youngster with problems trying to sort of find his way through. So if you stick with this, if you stick with The Silence, it's worthwhile, because there is payout for doing so, only it takes its sweet time to get there. Greg, you thought more of it? Or, I mean, I thought it was a very fine movie.
It is a very tense drama there. As that opening scene there, where Emmanuel Devos' character is driving down the street there, and you just get the bit of ominous music in the background there as she's driving, sort of sets the scene that this is sort of going somewhere uncomfortable. It's building up that sense of expectation.
But Greg,
and then it all starts to reveal, and it all falls apart. And it's certainly not a happy family story.
No, but Greg, did it need to go? That opening scene drove me bananas. Like, okay, look in the rearview mirror, see her eyes, do it a second time, keep on going. It's
giving you a sense of her uncomfortable feeling, Alex. She doesn't know what's waiting for her when she gets to her destination. That's why it's drawing out, so that you get into that sense of, you can almost feel for her. What is going on here? Where is she going? What is she feeling? And it's more of that internal performance, internalization of her emotions that you get there. So, look, I know it went on for about 3 or 5 minutes, but that was setting the scene and getting you a chance to sort of wonder what's going on, so that, you are drawn into the film, you're drawn into expectations of what's going to happen, and then it all unfolds and you learn so many ugly truths about this family.
But Mr. Recalcitrant...
No, I'm going to disagree with you on that point, Alex.
Mr. Recalcitrant, did it need to go on for 3-4 minutes, that opening scene?
Yes, it did, because it very carefully set up the scene. I mean, look at the film's zone of interest. That takes several minutes to get into the storyline, and I think that's a great device that filmmakers use to lure the audience into a narrative that at first seems perhaps benign, but actually turns out to be quite different.
Okay, so tell me how wonderful the movie is from your perspective, Peter.
A Silence?
Yes.
Yes, I think it's an excellent film. and the devastating conclusion is just incredible.
What else? Any other thoughts, Greg?
No, it's just that I weren't sure. I hadn't read anything about the film before I saw it, so some of the revelations certainly did come out of nowhere. A bit of a surprise there, and got a bit of a gritty, uncomfortable feel when you learn the depth of what's been going on.
Absolutely terrible. This is where I'm staggered that I didn't know about this case that occurred, I think, in Belgium. And again, I'm not sure how close to reality it was. Peter, did you do any reading on the actual case? I didn't.
Only a little bit, and as far as I'm aware, it is a fairly accurate depiction of the real-life events.
What an absolutely appalling set of circumstances, like incredible. At times, what's the expression? Fact is stranger than fiction. And but why would we not have heard about this? I mean, I follow the news very carefully. Do we know, Peter, did you know when it actually occurred? What year?
No, it must have been about, I would say, 8 or 10 years ago.
Okay, well, there we go. So let's get some scores for A Silence. Jacqui, does any of what we've said make it more compelling for you to go and see it, or because of the tawdry subject matter?
Yes, it's the content. To be honest, what I read of it was enough for me to say that I would find it too distressing.
Yeah, it is very, very much so. All right, so
I can take the aliens, but I don't want to do this.
Yeah. So, Peter, score for A Silence, MA rated, runs for 101 minutes.
Yes, no, I was also similarly impressed by this film, and there's nothing explicit, really, that we see in the film, so that's important, that it's all suggested. So I also gave this film 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Greg?
Yeah, look, I thought that given the content and what it's going into, it was fairly tastefully handled, so it's not that as confronting as it could have been. I'm going to give it 6.5 to 7.
Yeah, and I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 as well. So, yeah, sort of a very solid film, but you've got to have a stomach for it. Now, we're very short of time at this point, but let's tease this for perhaps next week. Just a line or two. There are really strong documentaries. There are many of them, and I mean, are you a Midnight Oil fan, Greg, or not? You love your music.
I've only got their greatest hits album. I've never seen them live, and that kind of thing. I haven't got any other albums apart from the greatest hits album. Okay,
well, look, basically, Beds Are Burning is one of my favourite songs. I think it's got such power, and I really admire it. And the passion. Well, I admire the passion of Peter Garrett for whatever he said it turns his mind to. He's somebody who gives it his all, and he certainly gave the band his all for a large number of years. And I'm obviously talking about a documentary about this, Midnight Oil, The Hardest Line, which came out in the last few days. M rated 110 minutes, and yeah, this is a band with a social conscience, and it sort of galvanized those who had an axe to grind. And it was a pub band, wasn't it? I mean, they did a really. Commercial radio didn't want a bar of them when they started. Absolutely nothing, and they couldn't get a run, and yet they did it on the road. And the people who went and saw them thought a great deal of them, but they took many missteps, and that's what this documentary shows. And I think it's quite it's very good for what it does, and you really do get a feel. I mean, if you're a fan, I reckon it's a must kind of documentary. But we'll talk about it in a bit more detail next week. And along with other movies and also a few shows I wanted to talk about. So we'll wait till next week to talk about that one. And go along, by the way, to the Comedy Theatre. There's something. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is really sorry, not Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I'm just gone blank on that's coming up this week. There's a play that was on at Red Stitch that is now that's now playing at the Comedy Theatre. And it's well worth a look because it's only on for 3 weeks, and it's interesting. There's the first play that was on at Red Stitch that's transposed to a bigger theatre. That only happens with the very best shows. So just be aware of that. Check it out. Go to. It's interesting because It stars Kat Stewart and her husband. Now, how often do you see husband and wife in a play? You do wonder, and it is Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, by the way. You do wonder how they'd go home of a night having fought for 3 hours on stage. Jacqui, could you imagine that? And you know who I went with? I went with somebody who's just separated from her husband, and I wondered how she was going to take it. I did warn her about the verbal fisticuffs that were being thrown, but it's inevitable that you would reflect upon something like that when you see.
So the woman who's just separated from her husband wasn't your wife then?
Yeah. No, just a very good friend. There you go. Very good. I like it. Jacqui, thank you very much for your contribution today.
Pleasure, thank you.
Appreciate it. Peter Krauss, always a pleasure to meet Mr. Recalcitrant. And Gregory King, take the white stripe off your back and barrack for the Bombers, will you?
No.
Thank you, folks. We're off. First on Film and Entertainment. Been a pleasure being with you. We will speak to you again next week.